Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be creating this cool looking design that we built in our past live stream, which is a furniture store called Future, or however you'd want to pronounce this. So we have a simple showcase with this text in the middle, and then we showcase some of the products that we would technically be selling if this were a real furniture store. And then we have the testimonials section, and then our newsletter section, and then finally a very simple footer. And then on the right, this is just the mobile version where we just duplicate the same thing but only with the mobile elements. So that's looking fantastic. And if you want to build along, then I have a repository where I have committed this, and let me just show it to you. So if you head over to GitHub, I have in my profile a repository called Figma designs. So if you go into repositories, then I have Figma designs. So this is the repository right here, and don't worry about it, I'm going to link it in the description as well so that you can find it easily. Then this is the one that we just committed an hour ago, so it's called Future Store, and here you can find the images, the desktop design, and you can go through the readme if you want, and you can also get the mobile design. The images just contains everything else that we're going to need for the desktop and the mobile. Now we're going to be building this in React. So what I did is I canvassed a new React application using npx create react app. Okay, so to canvas a new React application, you'd have to run npx create react app and then give this the name of your application or whatever you want it to be. I just called mine Future, like so. And if you try to run this and you get an error, then it's most likely that you don't have Node.js installed. So you can head over to nodejs.org to install Node on your system, and then you can run node-v, or you can run node-version to get the version that you have installed. And then you can also check whether you have npx installed by saying npx-v or npx-version, and then you can do the same thing for npm. Okay, so npm-v and npm-version. Now if you run all of these commands and they work in a terminal, then you can go ahead and do this, which will canvas a new React application for you. And then once you do that, then I've just opened up the generated folder in Visual Studio Code, and this is what I have on the right. And if you use Control and tilde, which is the key to the left of your number one, then it will open up a terminal, and inside my terminal I've just run npm start to start my development server. And you can see it's running on localhost 3000, where if I try to switch to it, then you'll notice that my React application is now running on localhost 3000, and this is what I have as the default. So right away, I'm just going to close out this screen, and then I'm going to place this to the side. Okay, so right away, I'm just going to delete this because I don't need it. First of all, let me go inside source, and then let me go inside index CSS, and then just remove all of this. And remove this as well, and this, and then go to the top and set up a few global variables. Root, like so. Just say primary color, and this is going to be something that I'm going to grab, so secondary color as well. And then border radius, we're going to need that as well. And for the font, we need to get two fonts. And the first font that we need is this. I don't want to try to pronounce this in case I butcher it. And then we're also going to get Roboto condensed. Now this is only going to be for our titles, and then this is going to be for our text, and we're going to be using the light font. Once we do that, then I can set up a few more global variables where I want all the images to have a max width over 100%, so that they don't introduce a horizontal scroll bar on the screen. And then for the ULs, I want the list style type to be none. And I've just noticed something. If you type something and you don't see any suggestions coming out, right, then you can say Control and spacebar, which will give you the suggestions that you would usually get. None. Set this list style type to none, and we want the H1s, we want the H2, the H3, the H4, the H5s, and actually the H6 as well, though we're not going to use all of them. But I want all of this to have a font family of this, and I think the fallback will be cursive. I'm not so sure. We're going to check once we get to fonts.google.com. And then for the paragraphs, I want the, actually right here, not on the paragraph, but on the body, I want this to be a roboto condensed like so, with a fallback of sans serif, right? And then for the paragraphs, I want a line height of 1.6 for every single one of them to space them out. So I think this is going to be quite a bit for our global variables. Now let me just go back into Figma so that I can get my colors here. The border radius here is going to be 5 pixels all around. And remember that this is CSS, and every variable that you declare must be prefixed by a double hyphen. So let me just go back into Figma. Give me a moment to grab these colors first of all. Okay, so our primary color is going to be this, and our secondary color is going to be this. So you can just go ahead and copy them from here. Now once we do this, then let's head over to fonts.google.com. So fonts.google.com. So let's see, I'm looking for roboto condensed, this one right here, and I want the light 300. I think that's the only font that we're going to use. And then once we do that, then I also want to grab another font called this. Okay, it only has one style, so that's nice. So select this style, and then look, notice how we get both of these, right? So I'm just going to copy these two links, and then I'm going to place this back to the side, bring it back to the side like so, and inside my index HTML, I'm going to paste it right here, and then I'm going to remove this comment, remove that, and then remove this comment as well. What do I need to do? I need to change this title. It's called future, and then remove this comment as well because we don't need it. That's almost looking nice. Let me change this meta description to say future furniture store, like so. And then before I save this, I just want to change the actually, let me grab the second one. I want to change this theme color to this. Okay, so that because I keep on forgetting to change this. So once that reloads, then our title up here should change. And if you try to open this up on mobile, if you're on a local network, then you can open up this link on your mobile, and you should see that the address bar should be a dark green color. So now I can close this down, and then I can close the index HTML, and I can remove this. And then actually, wait a minute, I didn't check whether the fallback was cursive for this, but we're going to find out in a moment anyway. So once I save this, then this should happen. Look at this, this should happen. The next thing I want to do is just create a new folder inside my source folder called components, like so. And then inside components, actually let me delete a few things. So delete app CSS, app test.js, the logo is PG, report the vitals, and setup test. Just delete all of these, we don't need them. And then in index.js, you can remove this because we deleted it, and then remove its import as well. Save this, and then in app.js, we're going to remove this on top. Okay, and then remove this header from here, and then remove this div with a class of app. And when we're going to be returning an h1 that says future, like so. And we should see future on the screen. Just reload it, and it should show up on the screen right there. Look at that. We're going to need a few components, and I just want to list them all out. Okay, so we're going to need a header.js, which is obviously our header. We're going to need a logo.js for our logo. We're going to need the call to action button, right? And then we're going to need our navbar.js. And then we're also going to need command load. Okay, we're also going to need our showcase.js. Actually, not showcase mobile.js, because we're also going to have a showcase desktop. So showcase desktop.js, like so. And then once we have this, then we're also going to need a grid.js. And then we're also going to need a testimonials.js, like so. And then next we're going to have a newsletter.js. And then after newsletter.js, we're going to have footer.js. And then in footer.js, we're going to have footer logo.js. And then in footer logo.js, we're also going to have socials.js. And I think that should be all for the components that we're going to need for this project. And before we continue, actually, I want to create another folder inside my source folder called data. And this is going to be housing all our repetitive data like the Navbar links and some of the grids, so that we don't have to keep on doing the same thing over and over again. So let's start with, we're going to need our navbar.js. And actually, I've just remembered a component that we're going to need, and it's called menu button.js. Okay. So inside here, we're going to have navbar. Then we're also going to have grid.js. And then we're also going to have testimonials.js. And actually, you know what? Because we're only going to have one testimonial. So technically doing this doesn't really make sense. So let me delete it. And then we're going to have socials.js, which once again is for the footer social media icons. And then once we do this, then I want to install a package that will generate unique IDs for me. And the package is called UUID. So I'm going to add my terminal right here. And then I'm going to say npm install UUID, like so. And actually, I should have installed React icons as well. But then again, actually, you know what? I don't think we need React icons, because in my Figma design repository, then I've provided all the icons that we need for this project. So actually, let me just open up. Let me just copy some of those things, some of those icons. So let me go into Figma. And don't worry, I'm just opening up my my file explorer here and just copying the images. And don't worry, these images are all available if you clone the repository. And let me just say copy, okay, rather drag and drop. Correct. Now these are the images that are available in the repository. Okay, so if you head over into the repository, then you should see desktop, which has all the desktop images, and then it has the mobile images as well. And then we have our social media SVG logos right here. And then once we do that, then let's start right away actually to run out our components, right? And I've just remembered something. The first thing that I should have done actually at the top is just reset everything. So reset the margin to 0, reset the padding to 0, and reset the box sizing to border box, like so. And there we go. So now I can close this and we can head over into components, and we can just start right away with the call to action button, because our call to action button is just a green button that says store. So I'm going to say _RAFCE, and I'm doing this because it's going to generate a React arrow function component and export it as default. Now I can do this using an extension called React Redux. Where is it? ES7 React Redux GraphQL and React Native snippets. So you can head over to your extensions and you can install this extension, and it provides quite a few things that you can do, quite a few, and you can go through each one of them. But the most common one that we're going to be using is the _RAFCE, which will just generate this, and we don't have to keep on typing this over and over again. Now once we do this, then I will just want to return an empty fragment here, and here I'm going to call this button, and then I'm going to say store, like so. Now I'm calling it button because technically this page is not going to have multiple pages, right? This website is not going to have multiple pages, so I don't want to return an href which doesn't really go anywhere. Okay, so once we do this, then I'm going to give this a class name of btn-cta, which is a call to action button right there, and then we're going to style it out in our CSS. So this is going to be our call to action component. And then we are going to go into logo right here, and inside logo I want to import my logo first of all, which will be inside my images, right? Inside my images, and it should be called header logo.svg. So I'm going to say import logo from / should be images / header-logo.svg, and then I'm going to say _RAFCE once again. And remember, if you type this and it doesn't give you any suggestions, then you can say Control and Spacebar, and you can just press enter or tab, or you can click on it and it should give you this. Now inside here, I'm just going to return an href. Actually not, instead of an href, I'm just going to return an image inside here that goes to logo, which is the source, and for the alt I'm just going to say Future Store, like so, which is technically our logo. And then once we have this, then I can go inside my header, and inside header I can say once again underscore RAFCE. You can see we use it quite a bit. And then at the top of this, I want to import my logo, right? So import logo from actually not but / logo, like so. Inside here we want to return a fragment once again, and then return a header element. And then inside this header element, I want to return a div, and then this div is going to be housing the logo component, like so. And then below this logo component, then what am I going to have? We need to create our menu button. So I'm going to create another div inside here with a component called menu button that we just haven't yet created, but I'm just going to import it at the top. So I'm going to say import menu button from / menu button, like so. And then right away I'm going to go into my menu button component, and then I'm going to say import menu from, now this menu is the hamburger icon, the 3 lines, which I have right here, menu icon.svg. So I'm going to say import this from /images / menu-icon.svg, and then I'm going to say underscore RAFCE, like so, and then return an empty fragment, then return a button, and then this button is going to say menu, like so. Wait a minute, not like so, sorry, it's going to have an image because the menu button is an image, and then we can say menu, and then it's not going to have an alt attribute because we don't really need it in this case. That is, we don't really need it in this case. Okay, so save this, and then now I can save this and nothing happens because remember we need to render out now our header inside our app.js. So head over back into app.js, and then right inside here I want to render the header, like so, and remember to import it at the top. Okay, and we should see nothing on the screen, or rather we do see something technically. Yes, we do see something because this is a button. Okay, now I was expecting that we don't see anything because everything is currently white in color. Okay, now let's head over. Let me give this header a class name of header. Okay, and then give this div a class name of logo. Give this div a class name of menu -button. And actually, you know what, instead of doing this here, I should probably do it inside here. So give this a class name of menu -button. This is why I like tailoring, because I can just tell it everything inside instead of having to think of my class names. So I'm going to remove this, and then let's head over into index.js, into index.css, and then let's place a comment here that says header, like so, and then let's target the class of header, and then just say background color, set this to primary color so we can see everything, like so, and then you can say display flex, and then align item to the center, and then justify content to space between, and then add a padding of 20 pixels all around so that we have this. And then we can now target the class of menu-button, and then we can say background color, set this to transparent so that we no longer have this kind of outline. You look at that. And then we can say border to none. So once we have this is our menu icon. And actually, you know what, I've done something wrong where I wanted in the original thing was that I wanted this to be on the left. Okay, I wanted it to be on the left. So what I can say here is display flex direction. I can send this to row reverse. Should take this there. Okay, now this is for our header. Now I don't want this color on our header. Okay, now technically our header is going to be, actually let me just leave the color inside. Now technically our header is going to be an absolute header. Okay, because I want the showcase image to go behind it. so that it kind of gives the illusion that the header is transparent. So I'm going to say position this as absolute, and notice what happens. That happens. So we need to set the width for this to 100%, that it goes to the end of the screen. So let me close this logo. Let me close the header for now and the menu button. Now remember that I have not done anything to do with the links in the header. Okay, I've left that out on purpose so that you can just deal with the UI first. Okay, and also for bigger screens, then I'm going to do the scaling up later, because I just want to deal with the mobile design first. So once we do this, then let's head over into Showcase Mobile. And was it a good idea to separate this out? I don't think it was a good idea. You know what, let me delete these two. Okay, actually, you know what, I don't need to delete both of them. I just need to delete one. So delete this and then rename this to Showcase, like so. And then inside this Showcase, then I want to import both images, both the Showcase images for the desktop, which is this one right here. This is for the desktop. Okay, and then the Showcase image for the mobile, which is this one right here. It's much smaller, as you can tell. Okay, now I want to go into Showcase.js right inside here, and I'm going to say import Showcase mobile from /images/mobile/showcase.jpg, and then copy this down and change this to Showcase desktop, and then change this from mobile to desktop, like so. And then I'm going to say _RAFCE once again, and then inside here I'm going to turn a fragment and then return a section, and then this section is going to have a class name of Showcase, and then below this we're going to have a div with a class of overlay, like so. And then this div with the class of overlay is going to have an h1 that says style in living, and then below this h1 we're going to have our call to action button. Remember, we created our call to action button, and then you can just import it right at the top. So you can say import CTA from /CTA. Now remember that with the latest version of React, then we no longer need to import React at the top, so that's why I'm not doing it. I've just realized that we don't need to import these. Actually, we don't need to import these two. We're going to be adding the images from our CSS. So let's save this. Let's go into index.js, index CSS. Why am I mixing these names up? Let me place a comment that says Showcase here, and then let me target the class of Showcase, and I'm going to set this height to 512 pixels because that is the height of the image. And then I'm going to say background like so. Set this to URL, set this to /images/desktop/showcase, like so. This is a mobile, this is mobile, sorry for that. This is mobile, like so. And once I save this, then we should see nothing on the screen. Why does nothing appear on the screen? Okay, sorry, the image is called Showcase-mobile. Okay, sorry for that once again. And we should see something on the screen, but we don't see. So let me set this to no repeat and set it to center and cover, but still nothing happens. Did I call this correctly? Showcase. Let's go ahead and style the overlay. So Showcase overlay, set this to background dash color, set this to RGBA 000 and 0.25, so 25% opacity. Okay, and set the height for this to 512 pixels as well, the same as this. And then you can say display flex, align item center, and justify content center, which will push this text and this button to the center. But nothing happens. Is it because why does nothing happen? Oh my god, you know what the problem is? We haven't rendered the Showcase. That's the reason. Okay, just import this. That's the reason why. Oh, okay, there we go. So now that we have this, then we can say set the flex direction here, flex direction, set this to column. So okay, so that we have this, and then probably we can change the text color to white for everything. Okay, so that we have this, and then I can now target the H1. So copy this, target the H1, and I can say font size 36 pixels and margin bottom, set this to 20 pixels, push away from the button right there, so styling living. And then I can say letter spacing, set this to 5 pixels, and there's a full column right there. Does this work? Actually 10 pixels. Does that work? Okay, set this back to 5 pixels. It hadn't reloaded. Okay, so that we have that style in living. Fantastic. Now once we do this, then I no longer want this background image on the header, so let me go back to the header and remove this background color, the background color, so that we have this. Look at that, we have a transparent header. Isn't that amazing? Now let's tell this call to action button. So right here I'm going to add a btn.cta and set the background color to primary color. Okay, set the text color to white, to hashtag FFF, and then set the border to 2 pixels and solid and primary color like so. And then what else can we do? We can add some padding of 10 pixels on the top and bottom and 20 pixels on the left and right. And then we can say font family, because buttons don't usually take up the same font family as the parent unless specified to. So I'm going to say Roboto condensed like so, with a fallback of sans serif. And also, you know what, this might become a bit repetitive if I have multiple buttons. So what I'm going to say, just call for every button, then set this. And actually this is the same it's the same rule as this, so I can just place a comma here and call this button, and then I can remove this. Look at that, look at that. And once again, I can as well do this for the input as well, and then for the input placeholder like so, and then I can do it for the label as well. So for the body, the buttons, all the inputs, all the input placeholder text, and the labels are all going to have a font family of Roboto condensed and a fallback of sans serif. And then we are going to add a border radius of our variable, so 5 pixels like so, and then set the font family, set this to 14 pixels, I think was what I used in the design. Looks too small. 16 pixels, but this isn't reloading. Sorry, not font family, sorry, this is not font family, but font size. Okay, so set this back to 14, so that we have that. Okay, looking amazing. Remember how we have set this to a background image of Showcase Mobile for small screens. Now I want to change this up for large screens, so I'm going to add a media query, and I'm going to say at media for a mean width of 768 pixels. Then I want to target the showcase, and I want the background to now be URL. Okay, set this to /images/desktop/showcase.jpg, and then set it to no repeat and center and cover as well, just like that. And we're going to see this in action once we start scaling it up. Okay, so next let's deal with our grid section, and for our grid section then we're going to need to do a bit of refactoring, where I'm just going to copy these two folders, so the desktop folder and the mobile folder. I'm going to copy them from here, and then I'm going to go inside my public folder and paste them inside. Instead of paste them inside, I'm going to create a new folder called images, and then paste them inside this images folder. So you're going to have the desktop images as well as the mobile images. I'm going to be creating a data array next, and I want the images to be served from the public folder so that they're accessible, otherwise they won't show. So what we're going to do is inside our data folder we have a grid.js file, right? Remember that we installed UUID, right? Remember we installed UUID. So I'm going to say import v4 as UUID v4 from UUID, and remember this is in curly brackets. And then I'm going to say export const grid. Now this is a named export, so I'm going to make it into an array of objects. So this is going to be UUID v4 for the unique ID. Okay, and then for the image is going to be coming from dot slash what? It's going to be coming from dot slash images forward slash desktop forward slash share dash one dot jpeg. And I've just remembered something that I should mention is that I separated these. You notice how the mobile and the desktop both have chair 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the desktop has up to 10, but the mobile version has up to 5. Okay, now I had planned to do something different for this, but I just noticed that it's going to be repetitive. Okay, so I just want to do it once, and I'm going to be using the desktop images. Okay, I'm going to be using desktop images instead of the mobile images. Okay, so inside here we're going to say desktop, this is coming from desktop share1.jpg, and then I'm going to say the text for this is going to be something that we're going to grab in a moment, and then the price for this is going to be what? We used $87, so let's just use $87 once again. And then let me grab the text. Okay, let me grab the text, and actually let me show you. You can head over to push this to the left. Okay, so if you Google random text generator, then you will get this randomtextgenerator.com, and you will have this. So you can just copy this. Okay, once you copy that, then you can come and paste it inside here, and would you look at that? So we have random text generated all over this, and then I can close this down, and then we can just do almost the same thing for about 10 more times. So if you're in Windows, you can hold down the Shift key and the Alt key, and then press the up or down key to copy things. So I'm just going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and actually that should be 10 of them, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so now the only thing that's going to change is this one. So this is going to be chair 10, this is going to be chair 9, this is going to be chair 8, this is going to be 7, this is going to be 6, and this is going to be 5, and this is going to be 4, this is going to be 3, this is going to be 2, and this is going to be 1. Look at that, looking amazing. Now once we do this, then I'm going to save this. Okay, and I'm going to close this, and then inside my grid component, now I'm inside the component. Okay, no longer in the data, but now inside the component, then I want to import this data that we have exported inside here. So we have exported it as a named export, and we've called it grid. So inside my grid component, I'm going to say import grid. Remember that it's a named export, so it has to be in curly brackets, and it has to be the same name that you exported it with. So this is coming from ./data/grid, like so. And then in order to use this, then we also need to set up some state values. So we're going to need the useState hook from React. So I'm going to say import useState from React, like so. And then I'm going to say underscore array fc once again, and then below this, then I'm going to set up my state value, right? Let me close this. So I'm going to say const cards and set cards. This is going to be equal to use state, and by default I want to pass in the grid data that I have, right? And then inside here I'm going to return an empty fragment, and then I'm going to be returning a section, and then oops. Okay, so this section is going to have a few things, and the first thing that we need to do is just map over our data. So I'm going to say cards.map, like so. And then I know that I want to be structured the ID, the title, sorry, not the title, sorry, but the image, and then the text, right? And what else did we have in our grid? So ID, image, text, and the price, like so. Okay, and then I want to set an implicit return by setting up my brackets like so. And then I want to return an article with the key of ID. Okay, and then inside this article, then I want to render my image first, right? So I want to render my image, come on, like so. And this is coming from image. And then for the alt attribute, in case the image fails to load, then I just want to say text. And you know what, I've just remembered that I didn't give this I didn't have a title for this. Which is basically the title, the name of the chair, you know, if it's a sofa or desk chair, things like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select this, okay, and notice how ID UID is common for all of them. Now you can say on VS Code, you can say Control D, which will select the next text which is similar to your selected text. So I'm just going to click it about 8 more times, which will select all the UUID that I have, the common text, as you can see right there. And then I'm going to go forward and I'm going to say title. For this, I'm just going to say desk chair, like so. So that we have just introduced a title attribute, a title property, sorry. And then we can just destroy it here by saying title, like so. So that now in case the image fails to load, now I don't want to display a whole paragraph of text. Instead, I just want to display the title that says desk chair. And then below the image, we are going to have an H3 that says title, like so. And then actually, do you know what I want? I don't want this to happen. So I'm going to grab this, place it inside a div. Why do you keep doing that? Place this inside a div. And then once I do that, then I want to have a paragraph here. Why isn't Emmet working today? Emmet is not working. And then this paragraph is going to say the price, okay? And then once you have the price, then below this div, then I want to have another paragraph that says the text, which is basically the description of the item. So once I save this, then I want to go into app.js and render out my grid. So render out grid and wait for it to auto import. Okay, there we go. And we should see our grid. Where are you? Reload. And there we go. So we have desk chair. All of them are just, you know, we've just given them the same name for the sake of simplicity. So would you look at that? That's looking almost amazing. But we need to style it out just a bit more. Okay, so I'm going to go back into my grid component, give this section a class name of grid, like so. And then let me show you something. Okay, look at this. Scroll down. It says set cards is assigned a value but never used. Okay, now in order to avoid this, because we are never going to use this function, okay, in order to avoid this, then we can add this line. So we can add this comment right here, which will disable this next line, and it won't show this as a warning, because as I always say, oops, no, don't close my server. Why? In development, it is a warning, but in production it becomes an error, and you don't want that. So you can just say ESLint disable dash next dash line, like so. And then I accidentally closed my server, so I'm just going to start it up again. And then we can just continue with starting this grid out. Okay, so inside index CSS, I'm going to go to the bottom right here. But actually not, instead of going to the bottom, yeah, let me just go here and just say grid. So for the grid, what I want to do first of all is just say display grid, and then grid template columns. For now, I just want each one of them to be one fractional column. Add a grid gap of 20 pixels all around. This is the grid, so let me add some padding with the grid. Let me say padding of 20 pixels so that it moves inwards, but you can't really see anything, so let me wait for my server to start again. Okay, so we are going to have this on the screen, so that's looking almost amazing. But one thing that I do want to do is, for mobile screens, I want the image to take up the entire width of the screen. So let me just check where I have my image. So I have the grid and then the article, then the image. So I'm going to go below this and target the grid and then the article, and then get the image and set this width to 100%. Sorry, this is a semicolon, not a full colon. So that we're going to have this. So the image now takes up the entire width of the device for smaller screens. So this is 100% of the screen. And remember that we have padding of 20 pixels all around. So that is the space that we're seeing on the left and right as well as on the top and the bottom. Now, one thing that I do want to do is, if you check the design, then our grid is kind of right around there, right? So So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a negative margin at the top. So I'm going to say margin top, set this to negative 150 pixels. Let me see where that puts it. That's too much. Let's say negative 100 pixels. That's almost nice. Let's say 80 pixels or 50. No, 80 is much better. Now, one thing that I do want to do is for each of the articles, then I want to add a very slight background color to differentiate them. So I'm going to say for grid and article, then I want to add a background color of EC, which is very light gray, very light gray, as you can see right there. And then inside here, I'm going to add a padding of 20 pixels as well to push everything inwards. Would you look at that? And is that really what I want? That's okay. And then let's add a border radius, which is our variable, just to make it uniform, like so. And then let's add a box shadow of, what is it, 5 pixels, 0, and RGBA this, let's say 0.5. Okay, so let's make this 0.25, make it very slight. Would you look at that? And then on hover, now when I hover each of the articles, so let's say on hover, then I want the box shadow to reduce, right? So I'm just going to copy this, paste it inside here, change this to 1.5. Let's see, sorry, that's not what I wanted. I want it to, let's say, 2 pixels and 2 pixels. Okay, that's looking nice. And then let's add a transition. So let's say transition the box shadow by 0.3 seconds or okay, yeah, let's just do 0.3 seconds, and then let's say is in out. There we go. Look at that, a very slight transition that looks amazing. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's grab our h3. Let's grab our h3, and actually not the h3 really, but the div. So let's say dot grid article, and let's see the div. Then I want to say display flex, because the div contains our h3 as well as our price. And then let's say align item to the center and justify content to space between, which will move them to the end, like so. And then let's say margin of 10 pixels on the top, 0 on the left and right, and 20 pixels on the bottom. Actually, this should be opposite. This should be 10 pixels on the bottom and 20 pixels on the top, like so. And then for the h3, let me just grab the h3, make it bigger. So h3, let's say font size, set this to 24 pixels, make it just a bit bigger. And then let's grab the paragraph to make it even bigger. So paragraph, let's say font size 30 pixels to make the price tag much bigger than everything else. So look at that, looking amazing. Now notice that this is a grid, right? So what we want to do is, as we continue to scale it up, then we want to just manipulate this grid, right? So I'm going to go and create another media query, and I'm going to say at media for a mean width of 640 pixels, right? Then I want to target the grid, and I want to say grid template columns should now repeat twice and 1 fractional each, like so. And then I'm going to grab this, okay, and then I'm going to paste it inside here, change this to 3 fractional columns, and then grab this and add another media query at media mean width of 992 pixels. Then I want this to display as, actually not 992, sorry, but for 1024 pixels. 1024 pixels. Then I want this to be 4 fractional columns, and then finally copy this downwards, change this to 1280 pixels, and change this to 5 fractional columns. And then once we get to this width, then I want the grid to have a max width of 1100 pixels, okay, which will take it to the left. But then in order to reset it back to the center, then I can just set the margin back to auto, which will center it, and you're going to see this as we scale it up. Now for the next section, our next section is going to be our testimonials, I think so. So let's head over into testimonials.js, And then inside here I want to import the image, so the image of the person, right? So import, let's just say img from actually not, let me say that's an HTML tag. So let's say image from, or rather picture from / images / mobile first of all / testimonials.js, sorry, .jpeg. What did I call it? I've even forgotten. It's in mobile testimonial. It's one single other, and then copy this down. Let me call this picture mobile, and then let me call this picture desktop, and this is coming from desktop, right? So from desktop, and this is called testimonial.jpg as well. Okay, now once you do this, then I'm going to say _RAFCE once again, as always, like so, and then I'm going to be turning a section, and then this section is going to have the first div. Okay, so the first div, actually sorry for this, is going to have a title first that says testimonials, like so, and then it's going to have a div. Okay, and the first div is going to have a paragraph that says some kind of text. So let me go back into random text generator and get the text. Okay, random text generator, let me just grab this text and paste it inside here, and then below this text, okay, now below this paragraph, below this paragraph we are going to have what, an h3 that says the name of the person, and what they call it, Kathleen Granger, I think, right? And then I'm going to place a span inside here and say CEO of Nike, like so, because I want to style this span differently from this h3. Okay, now once we do this, then after this div we're going to have another div. Okay, and this other div is going to have a picture tag, and the reason why I'm saying a picture tag is because by default I want this mobile image to show, but then on bigger screens I want this to show, and I don't want to keep on adding media queries. All right, so I'm going to have a picture tag, and this picture tag is going to have a source. Okay, and this source, I'm going to say media of type sizes, like so, and this is just the mean width for which the image will change. So I want to say for 768 pixels. So for tablets, right? So for tablets, then I want the following image to show. I want the picture desktop to show, and then I'm going to remove these sizes, we don't need it. And then remember that now this is in React, so this needs to be camel case, so set, and then by default I want my mobile image to be showing. Okay, come on, so by default I want the picture mobile to be showing, like so. So let's save this, and let's go into app.js and render out our testimonials. So testimonials, like so. So let's see what we have. Reload this, and we should have this. Look at this. So we have testimonials here, we have the text, and then we have our image. Look at that. Okay, now let's style this out. Let me give this section a class name of testimonials, like so, and then let's go into index.css. Let's add a comment here that says testimonials. Let's grab the class of testimonials, and then let's say by default let's say display grid. Actually, you know what I want to happen is that for mobile screens, then I want the image to come first and then the text, right? So let's say display flex. Okay, and then let's set the flex direction to column and say column reverse, so that now this will come on top and then this will go to the bottom. But I've done something wrong because I don't want this to be here. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this class name from here, just cut it out, and then change this section into a div, and then grab this first div and this second div. So grab all of this and place it inside a section, like so. And then now this section is going to have a class name of testimonials, like that. Look at that. So that now the testimonials goes back on top, and then this remains as it is. So that's looking fantastic. And then we can say align items to the center and justify content to the center, like so, so that the image also moves to the center. And then let's add a padding of 20 pixels all around to push everything inwards, like so. And then I have a paragraph, right? I have a paragraph inside this div. So testimonials div, the paragraph, okay? So let's see. Let me go inside the testimonials, the div, and I want to grab the paragraph where I want to say margin bottom, set this to 20 pixels to push it away from this text just a bit. And then let me grab the h3, so copy this, target the h3 once again, oops, target the h3, let's say font size, set this to 24 pixels, like so, make it bigger. And then now we want to target the span that is inside the h3, right? So for the span, I want to say font family, set this roboto condensed, like so, with a fallback of sans serif, like so. And then let's say font size 18 pixels, make it even smaller. Would you look at that? Looking amazing, looking very amazing. And actually, instead of saying margin bottom here, let me say margin of 20 pixels on the top and bottom and 0 on the left and right, so that it also pushes away from this image. And then we just need this to align to the center and to increase the font size. So let me show you that we can also add inline styling in JSX, like text align, and set this to center. And then let's say font size, set this to 30. And let's say margin top, set this to 20 as well. Let's see what happens, just to separate it out just a bit from this text. And we have that. Would you look at that? So now let me make this 36 just to make it a bit bigger. There we go. There we go. And this is looking amazing as well. Probably I could put this to the center, but I think this looks fine as it is. But then what I want to do is, remember how we set this to flex duration column reverse? I want to reset this on bigger screens, right? So at a min width of 768 pixels, then I want to grab the testimonials. Now what I want to do is set the flex direction here. Actually, you know what? Instead of setting flex direction here, I want to change this into a grid, right? Yes, I want to change this into a grid. So I'm going to say display grid with the grid template columns repeating twice, repeat twice, and one fractional column each, which will make this text go to the left and then this image to the right. Remember that the grid that we are now making into a grid is this block element, this first div. Yes, this first div that ends right here, and then this second div that begins here and ends here. Okay, so that when I save this, then we are going to have a grid on 768 pixels screens. And then let's add a grid gap of 20 pixels just to separate everything out. And then once we do this, then I think we should be dealing with our newsletter section next. Okay, so let me close this testimonials, let me close this grid and this one and the showcase as well. And then we need to deal with our newsletter section next. So for the newsletter, I'm going to do something very simple, and I'm going to say _RAFCE. And I actually wanted to show you how we can set up an actual newsletter on a website. But then again, I think it would be better because it's very simple steps, procedures you can follow. You can go ahead and Google button down, okay? And then once you create your form, once you create an account with them and create your newsletter form and everything, then you can embed it using an iframe on your website wherever you want. And it's really as simple as that. And once you embed it to your website, once you copy the iframe, then you can just style it out if you want and do everything you need. But then the functionality button down deals with all the functionality that you need. It's like ConvertKit. You can also check out ConvertKit as well for your newsletter functions. Okay, and I'm just going to leave this in case you need to some more information. So we're going to create a section here with a form, and it's not going to have an action, and then we're going to have an input. Actually, let's start with the label. This is going to be email, the label for the email, and then says your email address. Okay, And then after this label, we're going to have an input with a type of text, and then we're going to say the name is sorry, this is not text, this is email, and then the name is email, and then set this to required, and then set the placeholder text to enter your email address. Okay, I don't think anything else. We're going to have a button here with a type of submit, right? And then here we're going to have a subscribe text. This is submit, I can't even spell it, really, submit. And then this button is going to have a class name of btn-cta, so it's going to have the same styling as our call to action button. So I'm going to save this, and then inside app.js, then I just want to render our newsletter below here. So newsletter, like so. Remember to render it out, and voila, and we should be able to see our newsletter form right there. Look at that, looking amazing. Now I've just remembered that we need an h2 here that says subscribe to our newsletter, and then let's go right inside here. Let's say class name, let's say newsletter, like so. And then let's have right here, let's have a comment that says newsletter. So let's target the newsletter class. Why can't I type newsletter, like so? And I'm going to say display flex, align item center, like so, and justify content to the center. And this is all possible using emmet, that's why I can use those shorthand properties. And then let's just say flex direction, really, direction, set this to column, so that we're going to have this. And then let me grab the newsletter form, right, form, and then let's say display flex on it as well. Okay, and then align item center and justify content center, and then flex direction, set this to column as well. Move this up so that we're going to have this. Now for the form, what I want to do is, let's say newsletter, I want to target the form and the input, right? And then I want to target the newsletter form, really, form, and then the button, and I want each of these to have a width of 100%. Okay, and then let's also increase the width of the form here to 100%. There we go. And then let's add some padding of 20 pixels all around, padding 20 pixels. And then let me now grab the input only. Okay, so for the input, I want the padding to be 10 pixels on the top and bottom, right? And then let's say margin bottom, set this to 10 pixels as well, like so. Let's have a border radius that says border radius variable. Okay, and then let's say border of none. Let me see how none looks like. Okay, and then let's add a background color of what's our primary color? Is it this one? Is that our primary color? No, it's the other one. Let's see, this one. So now look at this. Let me just show you something. See what happens, right? I don't want this to happen. So in VS Code, then you can just hover over this and you can select your color in terms of RGB, hexadecimal, or HSL value. And I want to add an opacity of 0.25, right? So that it's just very, very faint, as you can see right there. Okay, and then for the input, I want to change the text color to secondary color, so that when I type inside it, then the text is just a bit thicker. And then obviously increase the font size for this to, let's say, 18 pixels. Make it just a bit bigger, and then instead of having margin on the bottom here, let's say margin on the top and bottom of 10 pixels and 0 on the left and right, so that it also pushes away from this text right there. Okay, and then now that we have subscribed to our newsletter, what I want to do is I want to target this H2 and change this font so that it doesn't conflict with this. Okay, so where was it? I just want to target the dot newsletter and the H2, and I want to say font family, set this to Roboto, really, Roboto Can't even spell roboto condensed with the fallback of sans serif. So that we have this. Look at that, looking amazing. Now the reason why this is possible, the reason why we can manipulate the font family of the header here, even though we have already placed it on top here, is because of something in CSS called specificity, where the lower you are in your CSS file, notice that this H2 right here is lower in terms of closer to the bottom of the file than our variables on top here. So the lower you are in your CSS file, the more specificity you have. That's why these styles will apply and the first one is going to be ignored. So that we have this, and then once we have this, then what do we want to do? I just want to add something else right around here where I want to target the newsletter and then target the form. Remember, the form has a width of 100%, right? So I would just want to set the width here to around, let's say, 700 pixels, and then set the margin to auto so that it goes back to the center. And that is going to be our newsletter form. And then finally, we can deal with our footer. Now for the footer, let's see. I'm going to say import logo, okay, from /images /footer-logo.svg. I think that was the name. And then I'm going to say _RAFCE. But remember that we have socials, a socials data array that we need to create. So let me go back inside here and I'm going to say import v4 as UUID v4 from UUID, and then let me close this panel, and then I'm going to say export const socials. Can't even spell. And this is going to be once again an array of objects. So the first one is going to be UUID v4, and then this is going to be an image, right? And we need to import all those images. So I'm going to say import Facebook from /images /facebook.svg. Copy this down a few times, change this to Instagram, change this to Twitter, change this to Tumblr, and then change this to Pinterest. I think those are all the images that I had. Okay, and then just link this. So image is going to say I was doing something wrong. So what I should have done is, instead of this, then I should have just grabbed this 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then just cut them out from here and then pasted them inside this folder of the images on top. So let's say the first one is going to be /images /facebook.svg, and then just copy this down. This is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, Pinterest. Okay, so Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and Tumblr, and Pinterest. Okay, so once you have this, then I want to import use state at the top here. So I'm going to say import use state from React, right? And then set up my state value. So I'm going to say const links and set links. This is going to be use state, and I'm going to pass in my socials as default socials, which I actually haven't imported, but it gives me the option to auto import it right there. So import socials from .data /socials, like so. And then inside here, I'm going to return a footer HTML5 element. And then once I have the footer, let me close this panel. Why am I even struggling? And this div is going to have an image, and then this image is going to be the logo that we have imported, so for the footer logo. And then below this, I'm going to have a UL, and then inside this UL, then I'm going to map over my links, so links.map, and then I'm going to get the ID and the image, like so, and then set up my implicit return, and I want to return a list item with the key of ID, like so, and it's going to have an image. Each of these is going to be an image, and the source for this is coming from image, like so. And for the alt, I'm just going to say social media, or rather, let's say share on social media, in case the image fails to load. And then once we have that, then I'm going to have another div. Really, I'm going to have another div inside here with our call to action component. This is the beauty of reusability. You just have to define it once and you can use it as many times as you want. So I'm going to save this and go into app.js and then render our footer like so. Let's see, import it like so, and we should see our footer right there. Look at this, looking amazing. Now let's tell our footer, so give this a class name of footer like so, and then let's go into index CSS and right around here let's say footer, and let's say dot footer, so target our footer, and I'm going to say display flex, and then flex direction, set this to column, and then align items to the center and justify content to the center so that this happens, and then target the dot footer ul, and I'm going to say margin of let's say margin of 20 pixels on the top and bottom and 0 on the left and right, and say display flex, and then target the footer ul and then the actual list items, which are the social media icons, and I'm going to say margin of 0 on the top and bottom and 10 pixels on the left and right, which should do this. Now for the footer, I want a very slight background color, so I'm going to say background color, set this to hashtag EC like so, very slight, and then add a padding of 20 pixels all around like so. Now for bigger screens, what I want to happen is I want the flex direction to go to row. Okay, so let's say at around 768 pixels, I think should be fine. So let's say dot footer, and I want to say flex direction, set this to row. Okay, and then we need to reset some margins, like we actually only this margin. So for the footer ul, then I want to say reset the margin to 0. Okay, now let's see, let me make this bigger, and look at this. Would you look at this? So we have our footer at the bottom, very simple, and this is not what I wanted actually. Instead of having this to flex direction row, let me also add something else called justify content to space evenly like so. So let's say that testimonials, and let's set this to a max width of what am I doing? This shouldn't be here, but it should be on the next one. So for the testimonials, let's say max width of 1100 pixels, and then set the margin to auto, which should center it. So instead of having the max width here to 1100, let's say 1200, and then 1200 for this one as well. And then let's just go back into our data array for our grid. Remember grid.js for our data array. And then remember that all of this text is the same. So I just want to select this second half of this text and say Control D till I select all the other ones like so, and then just cut it out and then reload this, and we should have very few text just like so. So let me go into the showcase and then increase the size of this h1. So let me just remember how I added it at the top. So showcase overlay h1, copy this, go into my media query right about here, and let's say font size, increase this to 46 pixels, and then just copy this and go right inside here, actually on the top because it's the first one, increase this to 64 pixels. Okay, so this is looking much better. I've just increased the font size for this h1. I just want to deal with the header next, and I've also increased the max width for this section, for the grid section, as well as for the testimonial section. Okay, now the next thing that I do want to do is I want to deal with our header, right? So let me open up VS Code once again. Let's go into header, right? Let's go into header, and actually, you know what? Let me just open this up, and then we also need our menu button like so, and then we need Navbar to be open. Now inside our data folder, we also have Navbar.js, right? So inside Navbar.js for our data, I'm going to say import v4 as UUID v4 from UUID, and then say export const navbar, set this equal to an array of objects. So the first one is going to have UUID v4 as the ID, and then the title for this is going to say home like so, and then I'm just going to copy this, grab it 2 more times. This is going to say browse items, and then the third one is going to say chairs. That's at least what I had. Now once I have this, then inside my navbar I can say underscore rafce. I want to set up my state values, so let's say const links and set links like so. Close this panel. This is equal to useState, and import useState from React as well. And then this is equal to navbar, which is coming from navbar. Okay, so let's import it. So let's say import navbar from /data/navbar like so. And then inside here, let's return an empty fragment, of course, and then we're going to be returning a UL, right? And then inside this UL, then I want to map over the links. So links.map, and then just destructure it right away where I want to get the ID and the title, and then set up an implicit return like so, where I want to return a list item with the key of ID, and then the text is going to say the title like so. And remember that this is not going anywhere. That's why I don't have any external links, or rather internal links for the website, because we are not set up any kind of routing. So that's why I don't have any kind of routing inside here. So save this. And then once we do this, then I want to go inside my header and I want to render my navbar, right? So right inside here, I want to render a nav element that says navbar like so. And then I should import this like so. And we should see our navbar right there. This is our navbar right there. Now I'm going to give this class name of navbar, and probably this isn't a good idea right here because I won't be able to access all the elements inside. So inside this UL, I'm going to give this UL instead a class name of navbar. And then let's go back to the top. Before the header, let's add a navbar comment like so. Let's target the navbar. And then I want to get the actually the UL is already class name of navbar, right? So I can say display flex, right? And then I can say flex direction, set this to column. Okay, and then I can say navbar li for the list items, change the text color to white so that we can actually see it right there. Then I can say set the margin to be 10 pixels at the top and bottom, and 0 on the left and right to separate them out just a bit like so. And then I can say position this as absolute, position it to the left by 50%. Okay, and then I can say transform and translate on the x-axis by -50% like so, so that it's perfectly centered now. And then once I do that, then let me see if I can say background color, set this to -- secondary color. Okay, so that we're going to have this. Let's set the width for this to 75%, so 75% of the screen like so. Okay, and probably I can say top of 0. Let's say width should be 100% of the screen like so. And then let's add a padding of 20 pixels all around to push the items inwards just a bit. Okay, and this isn't really a good idea for having the top of 0, so let me say top of 10%. Let's see, actually, you know what, let's say top of our header has a padding of what, 20 pixels all around, right? Our header has a padding of 20 pixels all around, and our image is 36 pixels, our logo 36 pixels, so that will be 56 pixels, I think so. Should work fine, almost fine. Would you look at that? That's an exact value. So let's say 60 pixels, let's say 70 pixels. The reason why I want it below this is because I don't want to position this button as absolute, because I want to be able to click it whether or not this is open or not. Okay, now once we do this, then what we need to do is we need to go back into header and we need to import use state at the top. So I'm going to say import use state from React like so. and then I'm going to use this. So I'm going to set up my state values to check whether the navbar is open or closed. So I'm going to say if is open and set is open, and this is going to be use state, and by default it's going to be false. Okay, by default it's going to be false because I always want the navbar to be false, to be hidden by default. And then I'm going to grab all of this, cut it out, and I'm going to say only when is open is true, that's when I want my navbar to appear. So that's why it's disappeared for now. And if I change this to true, then it's going to appear. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to be able to click on this menu button, which is going to be accessing this state value to toggle it from true to false and from false back to true. So I can do that by passing in these two state values inside my component as props. So I'm going to say is open prop is going to be equal to the is open state value, and set is open prop is going to be equal to the set is open function, like so. And once I do that, then I can go into my menu button component and I can destructure them as props. So I can say destructor is open and set is open. Okay, like so. And then I want that every time that I click on this button, then it's going to be toggling this. So I'm going to say on click, then I'm going to pass in my inline function, and I'm going to say set is open to the opposite of whatever is open is set to. So if it is set to true, then pass it back to false, and if it is false, then turn it back to true. So that when I save this and I click on this, look at this, looking amazing, isn't it? Looking very amazing. Now on bigger screens, I want to do a few things. On bigger screens, then I want this to always be true, right? So we can do that using another hook called use effect, right? Where I want for about 768 pixels, then I want to turn this from false to true. So inside here I can say use effect, like so, set up my callback function, and then set up an empty dependency array so that it only runs once. And I'm going to say if window dot inner width is greater than 768 pixels, right? So if this is true, then I'm going to say set is open true. Now the next thing that we want to do is restyle this navbar so that it actually shows much better on bigger screens, right? And then this should be about 768 pixels. So I'm going to go back inside. Let me just copy all of these styles, okay? And then I'm going to go on my 768 pixels media query so that I don't have to keep on scrolling back and forth. And right above here, I'm going to paste this in, and then I'm going to position this back as relative, okay? And then I'm going to set the background color here to transparent, like so, and then remove this, okay? And then you can display flex, and then flex direction, set this to row, and I can remove this width from here. And then the margin here is going to be 0 on the top and bottom, and then 10 pixels on the left and right. So let's save this. Let's see how this looks. So now I can remove this position relative, and then I want to remove this menu button. Let me see if it has a class name of menu button. So right below this, then I want to say dot menu dash button and set this to display none. Give this div a class name of something like btn dash container, or rather let's say menu dash btn dash container, so that I can also display none on this div, which will now remove it from this space on top. I don't know if you can see it. Okay, this is a class of menu btn container. Let me just copy this class because it's going to be hard to remember. And then below this, okay, actually not below this really, but alongside this, I can just do this and nothing happens. Okay, let me try something. Let's say if I can say position absolute, nothing happens. Why does nothing happen? Let me comment this. Okay, you know what, it's because our header is set to something. Our header, how do you set our header? Row reverse. It's set to row reverse. So let me set it to flex direction of row. So let me grab the header. Let me grab our header right here and set to flex direction. Can't even write it. Flex direction, set it to row. Okay, so that this should now go to the end. That is correct. That is very correct. Okay, now I don't want this menu button to appear, so for the dot menu dash button, then I want to say display none. Let's see, position relative. Okay, there we go. So top should go back to 0. Okay, there we go, and the left should also go back to 0. I think should be it, right? I also want to limit on big screens, right? On big screens, I also want to limit the nav bar, sorry, the header, so that it doesn't go all the way to the end. So let me see if I can do that. Actually, can I do that? Let me see if I can do that by just going right around here, right above here, and target the class of header and give them this a max width of 1200 pixels with a margin of auto. Let me see what happens. Okay, so it doesn't really go as I planned. Let me show you how it looks like. So this is how it looks like. I don't want the margin to end here, right? Instead, I want this to move to the center. I think if I go over here and say left of 50%, and then let me say translate on the x-axis by -50%, what happens? And that is almost nice. I think this should be it. The reason why I think it doesn't really display correctly is because of some kind of space that I have here that I don't really know what it is. So let's set this to the right of 0 as well. Okay, so disable the left of 0 and set it to the right of 0, and it should go to the right. Okay, so let's look at that. There we go. So now that's enough. And would you look at that? We are done officially with this cool looking design. And you know what? I'm actually starting to rethink this gray color because I don't really like it all that much. I'm starting to rethink that gray color. So let me remove it because it's going to bother me. So I know that gray color is our articles. So let me just remember where we had our articles. Right here, and then just disable this background color, and there we go. And then probably for the border radius we can reduce them to 3 as well, right there, just to make them just a bit smaller, so that we have this. Look at that. I think that is looking much better. Now the next thing that I do want to do is I want to create a GitHub repository. So head over to github.com, and then I'm going to create a new repository called future furniture store, like so. And then I'm going to create this repository, and then I'm going to copy this link. Okay, and then I'm going to head over into Visual Studio Code once again. So head over into VS Code, like so, and then I'm going to close down all of these. We don't need them. We no longer need them because we're officially done. And then remember, by the way, always remember to disable these lines. Okay, and actually let me do that. Let me go into Navbar and then say ESLint disable next line, and then just copy this. Okay, save that. Let's see, Navbar into footer.js right there, paste it there as well, and we should no longer have any errors. Okay, now remember, it is very important because there are warnings in development but they become errors in production. Okay, now that we are done with that, then I can close this down, and I can close this down, and then I can close down my development server, and then I can say let me cd into public, and again I can say git add images and git commit -m. Okay, and I'm going to say these are the images and assets. Okay, and I'm going to say git add index.html and git commit and say update index.html, like so. Okay, So we are done with that public folder, and then I can cd back and cd into my source folder and say git add components. Okay, and git commit say components, like so, and git add data and say git commit -m data arrays, and git add images and say git commit and say images and assets, like so. We should now add them up, add all of them, and then I can say git add app.js and git commit, oops, and say render components, right, and git add index.css and git commit and say main styling, and say git add index.js and say git commit -m and say remove unused import, like so. And then what did we install? We installed UUID, right? That's the only thing we installed, right? Okay, correct. So I can say git add package asterisk, which will add both package.json and package.json, and say git really, oh, this is not in the source folder, sorry. Okay, and say git commit -m, and then I'm going to say install UUID. There we go. And then now once you do that, then we want to add them to the remote repository, right? So I'm going to say git remote, actually you can just say git status to check whether everything is added, but not everything is added, right? These are deleted files, so I'm going to say git add all and say git commit and say deleted files. Okay, and then you can say git status to see if everything is running correct, and then you can say git remote add origin, and then you can now paste in the link that sorry, where's my link? Let me grab my link. Grab the link to your remote repository right there. Okay, and then you can say git branch -m main, which will switch it to the main branch, and then you can say git push -u, so upstream origin, and push it to the main branch, like so. And you just wait for this to finish, and then now when you switch over and head over into your remote repository and reload it, then you should see everything that we have been doing. Look at that, looking amazing. So this is our public folder. We have updated index.html and okay, so that is going to be it, and I'm going to leave a link for this repository in the description, and I think as well as the repository for the Figma designs, in case you want to code along, and in case you also want access to the design files as well. But yeah, I think that is going to be it for this video, and this is the design that we created in the past live stream, which was, for me, it was in the morning. It is currently afternoon here. So thank you guys for following along, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.